A powerful senior vice president of a major American or US organization pulled me aside after just spending 3 days in Africa and said this. This I quote, I figured out why Africa is underdeveloped. I said, His answer actually shocked me. But I'm going to pose this question. Was he right? I want to just use this episode to break down his controversial take on Africa's diaspora and why his answer or his solution might not be as simple as he probably thought. Okay, just to put it in context, I attended a seminar a couple of months ago. It was a 3-day event, and it had to do with the area of infrastructure and real estate, particularly in Africa. And this was hosted in Accra, Ghana. And one of the, I would say, the keynotes that came, there was the leadership, about 3 or 4 of them, the top leadership of the National Association of Realtors, which is the largest real estate body in North America, period. Because they have a membership of like close to, I think, 1.5 million people. I was shocked to actually hear that. And they were in Africa to kind of do a fact-finding thing to try to extend their influence on the continent of Africa. So Ghana was on the radar, Nigeria was on the radar, I think South Africa and a few other countries that they were piloting. They call them the acronym is NAR, right? So they came for that event as a fact finding mission and also a way to also look for where to plug themselves and extend their influence on the continent of Africa. So one of them, very key influential person, just after I had a privilege of presenting. I was one of the speakers, so I had an opportunity to present. And then during like the chit chat period, I think on the third day, this gentleman walked up to me, and we were just having casual conversation. And he obviously got to know that I have been a diaspora as well, living in the US as well. And it's like, okay, it was like a natural bond, natural conversation, happening because of those kind of commonality between myself and him. Then he just blurted out, hey, Isaac, I think I've only been in Africa. This is my first time of ever setting foot in Africa. Now I understand the reason why there is underdevelopment in Africa. And I also think I have a solution to that problem. I said, wow, you only been here for 3 days. The ink is not even dried, and you already have diagnosed the patient and written a prescription. I'm all ears, tell me. And what I heard really blew my mind. All right, before we continue, if you enjoy content like this and you are interested in more conversations about Africa's diaspora and business insights, especially pertaining to how diasporans and Africans can connect to leverage and build each other up for the benefit of the continent, then you are the right place. So how about you subscribing? Click the subscribe button and then the bell or the notification button as well, so that anytime I come up with great content like this, you'll be notified. And I do that every week. All right, let's continue our story. So when I asked him that question, he just blurted out, he says, this is the answer. I said, okay, what is it? The answer to him, he says, my 3 days being spent here in Africa, and actually there were people from all walks of life at that event. Lot of Africans in the diaspora who came for that event. Lots of Africans on the continent who traveled from many countries to be a part of that event. And he said, after interacting with people for these past 3 days, this is my conclusion. He said, I have been blown away by some of the ideas that I've heard at this conference. Some of these ideas are so revolutionary, they are so innovative. I've been the senior vice president at the um, National Association, NAR. I had not heard things like that before, even in America, until I came here that I had these kind of cutting edge, innovative ideas. And I said, okay, whoa, that is good. And he says, this is the kicker. I said, okay, then how does that relate to what you are talking about? He says, this is, let me learn. So he says, let me learn. This is the reason why. For the 3 or 4 people that I thought their ideas were revolutionary, they were innovative, they are super smart, there's one common thread about them. So what is that? He said the common thread is that they are all from the African diaspora. They all are African professionals living in the US and Europe. Some of them have come back to settle, others are still back there, but they just came for the conference. And when he interacted with hundreds of people, these 3 or 4 people, the conversation with them just stood out in his mind that this is incredible. So he said, Isaac, I just sat there thinking, if all these smart people who are African could return back to the continent's developmental challenge would just evaporate overnight. That was his words. I said, really? I said, okay. I don't know about that. I think there's some kind of validity to that. But the key is this. He said, if you guys or your nations could figure out a way by which you could facilitate bringing these people back, your continent will be different. And in a positive sense, will be different. You wouldn't need all these loans and begging because you have the manpower, you have the people to really transform the continent. Whoa, it hit me like thunder. So, okay. So when I came back and I was processing what he was talking about, the more I was processing it, the more I said, okay, there's some kind of serious credence to what he's talking about or what he was talking about. And this is the reason why. And actually, I would want us to engage in a conversation here. So if you think what he said held value or holds value, just put it in a comment. And so to me, this episode is just going to be as engaging as you could possibly think, because I want more people's ideas, more people's take on what this is. And actually, this man is Caucasian. He's not African American. He's serious Caucasian, serious capitalist. He's a businessman to the core, who's done very, very well for himself. So when I was thinking through it, I said, okay, wow, let me unpack this for myself and see if what he's saying is really, really, really Africa's problem. So this was what I thought. I knew over a period of time, as I matured in business and career and things, I knew that one of the things that makes large corporations large or big corporations big. So when you look at large organizations like Google or Alphabet, Apple, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, big companies like HSBC, Lloyds TSB, Chase Bank, all these big Ford Motor Company, what is common about them is the fact that they are large, they are huge. And huge companies of this nature are not just huge because of, or are not just large or powerful because they are large or powerful. They are large and powerful because they have the ability to hire excellent quality talent at scale. Excellent. quality, highly skilled talent at massive scale. And guess what? Quality talent is not cheap, doesn't come cheap at all. Quality talent could run into millions. But what sets a quality talent from a mediocre talent is this simple analogy. Most of the time, one quality talent could do the work of say 5 to 10 lousy, average or mediocre talent. But it's very difficult for smaller organizations to attract big time A players who are like quality talent. Very, very difficult. And the major thing about it is that it's expensive. It's expensive. That's why you have employees on Wall Street whose salary per year is over $1 million. And their bonuses per year runs into several millions. Smaller companies, smaller entities cannot afford that type of talent. So when we juxtapose that analogy to what this my friend said at that event, to me it makes perfect sense. For us to build at an accelerated pace, an all hands on deck approach is required. But not just all hands on, yes, everybody's hands are required. But if we can get, in this case, continental Africa, if we can get back some of our highly talented, super skills, niche specific, I would say niche specialist skills, these kind of brain power to come back to help with the development of the continent, it will accelerate the development at an astronomical pace. It will, just like big organizations, they make massive profits. Why? Because the individuals that work for those organizations who are super highly skilled, highly talented, they bring in a disproportionate amount of revenue. They bring in, one person's innovation can, especially in industries like the pharmaceutical industry, one innovation can bring in revenues running into billions. The same with tech and software. One idea can translate into billions. It's the same, I think, with countries, and in this case, collective countries like Africa or continent, where all our collective knowledge, especially what we call brain drain, we're able to figure out a way by which we can suction that brain power out of the diaspora to help develop the continent. Where I diverged with my friend was, he said, if you could bring all of them back, then things will change. I think, first of all, that is overly ambitious. That also, I don't like using the word impossible, but I think in this case, I will renege on my commitment not to use the word impossible for possibly once. I won't even use impossible. It's impractical. Not every African in the diaspora can return back home to come and live here permanently. There are people with unique issues, unique circumstances, unique family issues. There are people too who came and were bent. So they would rather have nothing to do with the continent with respect to they moving physically. But what my friend possibly missed was that you don't really need the physical presence of these big, high brain power back on the continent. What we need is just the brain power to bring back that massive talent, that massive brain power. And in today's this present day and age, because of technology, it is easy and it is possible to bring the brain power back on the continent of Africa. And I would want to put it out, maybe in the discussion, let's discuss what are the areas by which we can leverage African diaspora brain power on the continent. What are some of the options that we can have to make this brain power available to us? And if you've attempted to do that, you were unsuccessful or something happened, we would also want to know if you can put that in the comment so that we could all unpack this and learn together. Because if my friend was able to prescribe you will be able to diagnose Africa's problems and then prescribe it in just 3 days. I think we probably may need a little bit more than that to really, 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 what do you call it? You know, absorb this kind of information, process it, and actually make it fit for purpose. And that's what I'm trying to do, making that idea, that thought that was shared with me, making it fit for purpose, making it fit for purpose. And I know, yes, with the brain power back on the continent, we will fly. Anyway, so one thing I just wanted to chip in is that we just started a community, an online community. It's called Find Diaspora Experts. This community's passion is to connect African professionals in the diaspora with African business leaders and African professionals who are based on the continent, so that we could cross-share ideas, share best practices, and network, so that it can unleash creativity, inspire, partnerships, inspire business ideas and things to lift our continent up. So if you are interested, use the link in the description below, or just visit finddiasporaexperts.com, and you can join the community, and we can start connecting, networking, and bonding together. Awesome. All right. So if you haven't already subscribed, do well to do so if this kind of content resonates with you. All right. I'm glad you tuned in. See you soon.